Imagine a video game so eerie, so psychologically twisted, that it doesn't just scare you during gameplay, it haunts you long after the console goes dark. Not your usual jumpscare parade, not a mindless monster fest. No, this game makes you feel uncomfortable in ways you didn't even know a game could. Welcome to Silent Hill 2. A title released in 2001 for the PlayStation 2 that transformed fog from a simple weather effect into a living, breathing character. A game that turned guilt and grief into monsters stalking you every step. It's not just a game, it's a psychological journey into the darkest corners of the human soul. Today we're going to explore what makes Silent Hill 2 one of the most revered cult classics in gaming history, and how it was born from a mix of inspiration, innovation, and a bit of madness. We'll dive deep into its twisted story, full of heartbreak, confusion, and disturbing monsters, and finally compare it with the modern remake that tried to bring Nightmare back, but with the shiny new glasses. So buckle up because this is going to be a foggy ride. Yeah, you get it because it's all foggy here. So yeah, you should definitely subscribe or something.
Yeah, I will subscribe because you're the funniest thing alive.
Yeah. Let's rewind to the late 90s, a time when the PlayStation was king and survival horror was just starting to find its feet. The original Silent Hill, released in '99, was already a surprise hit. Unlike the blood-splattered Resident Evil style games, it used fog, shadows, and a haunting soundtrack to make players feel uneasy. But that game's story was pretty straightforward. Harry Mason looking for his missing daughter. For the sequel, the devs at Konami Team Silent had a radical idea. What if we don't continue Harry's story? What if the game is not about what's happening out there, but what's happening inside the main character's mind? This was basically like telling a horror story where the real villain is you. Yeah, no pressure. The team was led by director Masami Tsuboyama and writer Hiroyuki Owaku. They drew heavily from psychological horror movies like Jacob's Ladder and The Shining, and TV shows like Twin Peaks, with its small town full of weird secrets. They wanted Silent Hill 2 to be less about killing zombies and more about exploring human pain, guilt, and repression. The game environments were crafted to feel like a psychological maze. Sometimes confusing, sometimes claustrophobic, but always unsettling. The fog wasn't just a way to hide hardware limits anymore. It was part of the story. Music composer Akira Yamaoka returned with a soundtrack mixing every piano, industrial sounds, and ambient noise that feels like a nightmare soundtrack come to life. The design team created monsters that weren't just scary but symbolic. The lying figure, dragging broken limbs, who represents James repressed memories, the mannequins as a sexual frustration and shame, and the infamous pyramid head, a symbol of punishment and guilt. The PS2 hardware allowed for better graphics and more fluid animations, which meant the atmosphere could be even denser. You'd often find yourself walking through Silent Hill foggy streets, unsure if what you saw was real or just your mind playing tricks. Despite the risk, Konami greenlit this unconventional sequel, a slow, moody game with minimal action but deep psychological horror. And the gamble paid off. Now let's talk about the story. You play as James Sunderland, an ordinary guy who receives a mysterious letter from his wife, Mary. The letter says,
In my restless dreams, I see that town, Silent Hill. You promised you'd take me there again someday, but you never did. Well, I'm alone there now, in our special place, waiting for you.
There's just one problem. Mary died 3 years ago from a terminal illness. Why would she send a letter? Is she alive, a ghost, or is James losing his mind? From the moment you arrive in Silent Hill, reality feels warped. James isn't a typical action hero. is vulnerable, confused, and carrying some serious emotional baggage. Throughout the game, you meet other characters who each one of them carry their own trauma. Maria, who looks exactly like Mary, but it's more confident, he flirts more, and kind of dangerous. She's like the game way of showing James conflicted feelings, love, guilt, and denial all wrapped up in one character. Angela, a deeply troubled woman haunted by her past abuse, and her story is heartbreaking and very raw. Eddie, who initially seems like a regular dude but hides violent tendencies, and Laura, a little girl who somehow isn't affected by the town's horrors, or maybe just doesn't see them yet. The monsters you encounter aren't random, they're symbolic. For example, the lying figures are like twisted versions of James himself, representing his buried memories and guilt. Mannequins, these creepy faceless humanoid figures, symbolize James' suppressed sexual shame and frustration. And of course, Pyramid Head. Now, Pyramid Head isn't just a terrifying boss monster, it's a walking punishment for James, a manifestation of his subconscious desire for atonement. Throughout the game, subtle clues hint at what actually happened to Mary and James' role in her death. It turns out James ended Mary's suffering himself, maybe an act of love, maybe desperation, or even guilt. Silent Hill forces you to confront this ugly truth, that sometimes the worst monsters are the ones we create inside our own minds. And like a choose-your-own nightmare, Silent Hill 2 offers multiple endings based on your actions. The Leave ending, where James accepts the truth and moves on, the In-Water ending, a more tragic option, the Maria ending, where James clings to denial, refusing to let go, and the Mysterious Dog ending because, hey, every dark story needs a little weirdness. Now, fast forward to 2024. The Silent Hill 2 remaster hits consoles and PC. Fans have waited almost 2 decades for a chance to replay this cult classic with upgraded visuals. But how does it hold up? The remaster shines with updated graphics, fog and lightning effects are more dramatic, environment is cleaner, and monsters even creepier in HD. However, some fans argue that it loses a bit of their original PS2 charm. The grainy textures and clunky animations actually added to the unsettling mood. The sound design was tweaked, but many say Akira Yamaoka's original soundtrack still beats the remaster's new mix. Narrative and gameplay luckily remain basically untouched, so if you're a purist, the PS2 original still reigns supreme. But for newcomers, the remaster offers a cleaner, more accessible way to experience this timeless psychological horror masterpiece. Silent Hill 2 isn't just a game about monsters and puzzles, it's a mirror held up to the human psyche, exploring guilt, grief, and the dark secrets we bury deep inside. It changed survival horror forever, shifting the focus from cheap scares to deep unsettling stories that make stick with you. Even more than 20 years later, James' Sunderland journey remains hauntingly relevant because it reminds us all that sometimes the real horror is what we refuse to face. Whether you prefer the nostalgic PS2 original or the shiny remaster, Silent Hill 2 continues to captivate and terrify new generations. So if you've never walked through the foggy streets of Silent Hill, maybe it's time. Just don't forget to keep your flashlight closed. Thank you for watching, and see you soon, random internet brother.
The name on the envelope said Mary. My wife's name. It's ridiculous. Couldn't possibly be true. That's what I keep telling myself.